Okay, let's get back to Abuja. And Mr. Amadi was trying to make submissions on the question that I asked with regards to security. Have you heard in Rivers State, perhaps people complaining that there's been an excessive use of the military presence there? Some videos have been making the rounds, actually.
Yes, we need to situate what is happening in Rivers State. And I've always maintained that the elections are a civic responsibility and should not in any way be militarized. But will the security agencies keep quiet when political actors drum, or hit the drum beats of war, and not just beat these drum beats, actually in some instances begin to carry out some of these threats? Now, in Rivers State, what we have seen is, apart from the political actors, we have also seen a clearly partisan deployment of security agencies in such a way that some of the videos that we have seen that has even led to the army commands to talk about investigating the authenticity of this video in question, some of these videos in question. It's really very disheartening when security operatives jump into the fray. You would think like a place like Kano, where there were lots of rhetoric about, the actors there, that there should be maybe bedlam. But you see people voting, queuing peacefully to vote. That is how it ought to be. And then security operatives will maintain a safe distance and watch people cast their votes. But what is happening in Rivers State is clearly becoming an embarrassment, not just to the state, but even to the security operatives that are supposed to have to maintain some basis of neutrality. Now, I want to say this immediately. Because of the history of Rivers State, given its militant history, and the fact that the last United Nations report shows that the proliferation of small arms in that community, in that state alone, is eclipses, especially around the region, eclipses what you have within the sub-region, in the West African sub-region. It will not be right to say security agencies should just go back and step back and let the process, because this proliferation of small armies, they're always going to be deployed. But having said that, the security agencies must also realize that they are serving the Nigerian people and not a party, and must exercise some restraints. I expect that as voting is going on now, and as they listen to us, and as the authorities are talking to them, they should step back and allow people to cast their vote. Let anybody who emerges as the governor of Rivers State and legislators and representatives be determined at the polling units by the votes and not by any other machinations.
Interestingly, because the concerns are just spreading very wide, and we're also getting feelers that it's not just okay in some places, and that elections have not, the process has not started in some places in Rivers. But do you see this as part of the machination that you talked about that has resulted in this kind of situation where it seems to suggest that people are not really comfortable coming out? What should they do?
It is possible that people are staying back. But if you look at Rivers State, if you have taken time to study the numbers in Rivers State, the number of cancelled votes in Rivers State is unprecedented. I think over 1 million in Rivers State alone are cancelled. Whatever led to that, whether it is deliberate suppression by security agencies or whether it was engineered by actors within the state, whatever it is, that number of votes that was cancelled in that state will have a way of rubbing off today, because it sent a signal that the state was not safe, that people who were supposed to go out and cast their votes were not going to be safe anyway. So who wants to lose his or her life because you want to go and exercise a franchise? It's not. You stay back home. We have relations leaving the state and going back to different places where they come from. It is not good. And the optics, again, before the elections, when you have what different security agencies were calling show of force. What are we preparing for war here? What force are you showing? You want to show force to dissuade those who want to perhaps carry out any activities, not to carry those out. It doesn't work anywhere. You only show force where you have a clear and present danger that our intelligence that something is about to happen. But when this show of force is targeted as scaring opponents, it doesn't imbue confidence. And what you suspect that if the security agencies were carrying along as if in a way that tells every actor that they are non-partisan, I believe people will get the communication right and they will come out. Now, you will hear stories today in River State. As time flies by, you begin to hear stories of self-help, and that is what we don't want to see. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the proliferation of small arms in River State is enough to wage a small war. And so, if people see this intimidation and resort to self-help, what you have is a total disaster in River State, and you don't want to see that in a critical state like River State, that is one of the state centers, one of the states that powers the Nigerian economy.
Okay, quickly before we go, Mr. Okoye, under what circumstances can collation officers be changed before elections?
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission is the body that has the right and the authority to appoint collation officers for each area. We have collation officers at the registration areas, we have collation officers at the local governments, and we have collation and returning officers for the state elections. And you know that we have two categories of elections, the governorship election and the state assembly elections. For the state assembly elections, we are going to have collation officers at the registration areas and at the local governments, and then we have to have a state constituency return made. Now, it is the collation officers are not appointed by the resident electoral commissioners, and they are not appointed by the states. The collation officers are appointed by the Independent National Electoral Commission at the INEC headquarters. And the list of those who have been appointed are sent to the states and asked to the states are asked to implement and post those collation officers to the areas of their assignment. The Independent National Electoral Commission can change collation officers for this election. And there's a possibility that in a few states where we had a few challenges, that some of those collation officers have been changed by the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission to ensure that we have a clean process. If a collation officer also has challenges in terms of inability to discharge his or her functions, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission will be informed, and we will make the necessary adjustments in terms of who collates the results and where the person is supposed to collate. So we reserve the right, because there are appointees of the Independent National Electoral Commission, and the Electoral Commission has the right to change those appointees if it deems it necessary.
But this track is up next on the hour. Thereafter will be post stream. Oh, okay.